Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach, and today we're going to take a look at the back line and just a few things to look out for as you pick your defenders. Now, firstly, obviously I'm not picking your side, so I'm not going to be going through exact names, more so structures and little theories and things to think about when you are selecting your side. I'll go through each line over the next week, but obviously you see a lot of pages and things just reel off name after name and lock this guy in, get this guy. I'm not a massive fan of that. I mean, I'm all for talking about team structures and guys that I like, but at the end of the day, I think it's important that you do go with your own selections and your own gut feels, because if we didn't, we'd all end up with the same team, and often that can nearly become the case. But if you can get a bit of a point of difference and you're happy with it and it's a good one, then it can really set you apart. But I guess firstly, the back line is certainly a line that I wouldn't be spending a stack of cash in. Historically, it's the lowest scoring line. I mean, as we know, defenders are defenders. They aren't your exactly attacking type. Therefore, we got to look even harder for ones that do have that attacking flair. And of course, we're looking for guys who are good ball users and rebounding defenders. Of course, there is the exception. Maybe Alex Rance is your sort of key position player. Tom McDonald has even been that sort of player in the past. Michael Hurley is cheap, and you could argue the case he could be a good pickup and is a key defender. But generally speaking, we want to pick guys that the team loves the ball in their hand, they're designated kickers, they're running by for handballs, and they're quite happy to give them the ball. We don't want shut down players. We don't want guys who occasionally pop up and take an intercept mark. We want players who are offensive, and it is a pretty key component of the game now, that quarterback role, dare I say it, that Americanism in the game is certainly pretty true these days. We do like to have that player who can really run off halfback, set up play, and they're the guys we're looking for. Now, they're quite hard to find, albeit I must say there are a few more options than in previous years. And while I would suggest probably don't splash the cash in your back line, you could argue the case that the forward line this year is just as difficult, given we've lost quite a number of mid-forward options. So I'll talk more about the forward line obviously when I preview that line, but you could definitely argue the case that maybe it's harder to come across good selections, or just as tough as the back line. But obviously I think the three main players will certainly be Taylor Adams, Heath Shaw and Sam Doherty. They certainly are the front runners of our defence, and three guys who aren't just premiums but the real top end, capable of doing your 105 and 110, which Doherty certainly showed was quite possible. So I think they're a rare commodity when it comes to defenders. Normally we'll be looking for guys who can go high 90s, three figures. I think certainly there are a handful of guys who are capable of doing that, but I think those three are certainly the ones who we could bank on the most. There's some other pretty good options, no doubt, but certainly you'll be looking to fit in two of those for sure. At the moment, I'm running with the one. You can check out my first SuperCoach side of 2017 in one of the other videos as well, but I think a lot of guys will go for two, particularly I think Shaw and Adams will be extremely popular picks. Now, as I said, I probably would err on the side of caution with your backline, just because historically more changes. The top six defenders change a bit more than maybe a top 10 mids. I mean, we can bank on so many midfielders. We know the ones that year after year are the absolute cream of the crop, and often we'll have mid-forward options as well in our forward line, and ruckman generally are easier to pick, especially those top two or three. Now, the back line, it can chop and change a little bit. There are mainstays, as ones that I've mentioned. Shaw for a long time has been, but it's going to be a little bit tougher. You might even like the looks of a Rory Laird or a Lee Montagna as well this season. Certainly a few guys to have a look at there. I personally am running with a bit of a three premium, one mid-price, and then the rest rookies at the moment. I think that'll probably be a fairly popular sort of thing. I mean, there's a few mid-price options with the likes of Hartlett, Kolajasny, Michael Hibbard, and a few others that are a bit more ambitious around that 350 to 420k mark. But they're probably guys that you might like to just take a gamble on in your backline alongside some of those premium types that I've mentioned. So I think that'll be popular, and also I think we can probably do something like that as well, as in go a little lighter in the back line, given we do have Andrew McGrath, Tom Stewart and Luke Ryan, who, while I do stress it is difficult to pick which rookies are going to play footy at this time of year, but certainly they look like guys that are looking very, very definite to play early games. So they're certainly the front runners in regards to that. So we can kind of pencil in that we'll have some good rookies to work with, which makes it a little bit easier when we're going to maybe not have as many premium types. And I think the backline is, if you're going to skimp on it, if you want to use that little term, the backline might be the position you do. And of course I'll talk more about when I preview the midfield about going a bit bigger in the midfield, because as I've said, that's where the points are to be won. So I think when you're going through your backline, build your squad around, you know, your likes of your mainstay players, whether it be a Simpson or a Shaw, and then maybe you might want to take a little risk with your fourth defender or something like that, and then finish it off with rookies. That's sort of a structure I've been going with, and I've seen quite a few people do likewise. I think it's important to not get sucked into spending too much cash, because at the end of the day we want to put the cash into where you're going to get the most points, and I think that's probably the midfield. So, and it is more difficult traditionally to predict the top 6 to 8 defenders, because their nature of their roles can change depending on the season. So we'll have to wait and see. Maybe after 6 to 8 rounds we can really bank on, like, oh yes, he is going to be a top 6 defender. You can go with a bit more confidence and bring him in the side and round out your backline that way, sort of in the early parts of the season. So I think that's a rough guide in regards to the backline. These are just your little previews, nothing too set in stone. I mean, it is early, but these previews were quite successful and well received last year, so I thought I'd do them again. Of course, the backline is a little more simple. I think the midfield preview will be of a bit more interest and have a little bit more to it, because there is a lot more elements and a lot more players when it comes to picking that line, and it is crucial that we nail it. But I think just a few of my thoughts and theories on what type of player you're looking for in the back line, and maybe a potential structure setup. But as I've said, there's no absolute guideline to it. You may feel that you want to go with 4 premiums. You may want to feel that you want to, you know, go a bit more mid-price-ish. You might like Hurley, Hibbert and College As. You might like all 3. You might go a little bit riskier. There's certainly no absolute blueprint to picking a winning side. There's certainly a few theories, and some more successful than others. But I think this is just my opinion, and yeah, let me know if you've got any other theories that you're running with at the moment. As always, comment on the video. Good to get a bit of interaction happening. Like the video, subscribe as always, and I'll check out the midfield soon.